for today's detailed analysis, I have already done the reaction to this. If you haven't seen it, make sure you jump into the description, you check out the video there because it's got all the clips that I'm going to be breaking down. But look, we've got a banger for you today. What is good, everybody out there? Thanks again for checking in with Court Thoughts channel, where we basically talk basketball. It's time to get into that detailed analysis. Let's get into it. I mentioned this recently in my Bradley Beal video. If you haven't seen that, please make sure you go ahead and check it out. But when I'm looking at these reactions, I try to think about things that I can stop and implement into my game really without having to do too much. Developing your IQ and developing your ability is all about trying to look at the game as being smarter and not necessarily having to develop all these hyper athletic abilities. Yes, being athletic is fantastic, but I don't think we need to always focus on things that are innately athletic. The first thing that I want to talk about is his ability to eat up space. And he's doing that by pushing the ball forward and sort of using things like jolt dribbles. It's not really like a jolt dribble, but it's kind of like an offhand dribble. And he's doing it to basically keep the ball forward. A lot of the actions that he's creating himself to get downhill is pretty much off of screens, whether it's not like a set sort of pick and roll thing. He's like maybe coming off of something, and as soon as he turns a corner, he's pushing the ball forward, and I really love it. It's something that I try to do in catch and shoot situations. When you catch the ball and you're in a running position, I don't want to put the ball here because now I'm in this sort of awkward position where my body's moving forward, but the ball's like back here. It's a really good idea that when you run into the ball that you push it forward. And you can do the same thing when you're going around the screens. Obviously, I need to read what the defense is doing, but if the defense is in drop coverage because, you know, they're worried about me driving by pushing the ball forward, I'm now ultimately trying to make them make a decision. Do you want to give me the midi or the floater? Cool, I'll take that. Or do you want to crowd? And in which case, I probably won't be doing the push out, but I can then go and attack you and bump into you and go aggressively to the cup. Making the defense make a decision is really a powerful way to be an absolutely devastating scoring threat. The next thing I want to talk about is shiftiness. So many people of recent have focused on trying to build training plans on being shifty. And a lot of the time, pet peeve of mine, is that they develop this twitchiness in your feet. Your feet aren't what make you shifty. It's actually your chest. So when you're defending against someone, you're looking at their hips, you're sort of looking at their movement of their body and trying to cut off angles. Being hyper twitchy with your legs is great, but the twitchiness is ultimately about creating this stopping and jerkiness in your chest. Now, you can do that with moving your chest in your movements to really sell what you're trying to do. Let's look at an example of a Euro step. The thing that makes Euro steps so deadly is if I'm going in this direction, I have the ball here. You're not looking at the ball, you're just seeing my chest and my frame go from this to this. But what sells it, my chest is going this way, I'm taking a step and moving over. Shiftiness is exactly the same concept. In me being shifty, I'm here, I move my frame here, but I'm coming back. And this sort of movement, along with things like having these really twitchy legs and snappy movements with your body and off-kilter movements, really is so devastating in trying to create space. If you really want to be shifty and you want to try to create that opportunity to deceive players, whether you have your back to the basket or whether you have your chest to the basket, if I can get comfortable in moving my frame and thinking about it from my chest, it's just a really great way to throw off the defender and really deceive them in what you're ultimately trying to do. Move your chest. Last thing that I'm going to talk about is actually a finishing ability in finishing at the basket. A little thing that you can do is called the show and go. Let me explain that further for you. Take a moment and have a look at guys like Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving to me is the GOAT in finishing near the bucket. Another example of that is actually I think it's his godfather, Rod Strickland. I did a video on him way back in the day. Fantastic finisher, but one of the things that they do is when they take their gather step, they show the ball up. And what that does is it tells the defender's brain, I'm going to lay up. And the defender jumps. And as soon as they jump, I'm in that gather step and I have this extra time to now go show and then actually go where I want, or go. I can do a bunch of different things. In lifting the ball, I have control. The defense is not really, the ball here isn't really a problem. But here, I'm still able to jump, meet the ball in the air. My chest is meeting the ball, and now I have this full range of motion and extension. Using things like the show and go and different types of steps and maneuvers is ultimately about trying to deceive the defender. They look hyper acrobatic, and there is definitely a level of athleticism, but this meet the ball and then adjusting, it really doesn't take a lot of development for you to be able to implement into the game. I wouldn't say it's something that we can just watch and then go, oh, I know how to do that now. Like, it's not the Matrix.
I know Kung Fu.
We can definitely look at trying to understand that concept and then introduce it into our game. What do you guys think? Do you think the show and go is a good idea? I personally love it, but look, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Jump in the comments and let me know. When I think about the trade that ultimately sent Jordan Poole to the Wizards, I mean, you can see it on his face. I think it's because he's kind of realized that maybe his bravado was hurting his momentum with the team. In order for a team to be a super cohesive unit, you need to build morale. And sometimes, especially in basketball, ego and bravado ruin any chance or resemblance of a relationship to build, because people think about themselves more than they actually think about the team and the asset that they are to the team. And what's actually a shame is that I think about Jordan Poole's game, and a lot of the times when I would watch Warriors games, I would see him and think, you're doing too much. And I still stand by that opinion, because I do think that he was doing too much. In fact, the video itself that we watched was like, 2 minutes? And a lot of it was him going downhill in these really open spaces. But most of his season was not in that action. There was sometimes him, doing things and taking shots but that he shouldn't be taking, because it's like this ego thing. And the abrasiveness with players like Draymond Green, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of side chatter that's going on about that, but I think it's really interesting to stop and actually understand that just because you're good doesn't mean you need to walk around and think that you're God's gift. Like, it doesn't work like that. I do think about playing with guys like Jordan Poole, and I've played with players like Jordan Poole, not in the skill level or even the style of play, but that bravado, where they are good, but inherently what makes it difficult for you to play with them and what you really don't enjoy about playing with them is that they do too much. If you find yourself on teams where you butt heads with lots of people, maybe think, am I the Jordan Poole in this situation? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jordan Poole is actually going to be the saving grace that the Washington Wizards need, but I can't imagine that he's actually going to be a player that you'll see go there and will revolutionize the team. I mean, I think of like Kyle Kuzma is the same thing. He was great when he was playing with the Lakers, because you think about the network of players that are around him, and then you take him out of that environment, like, hey, bro, like, we're going to make you a go-to guy, and they're kind of like Homer Simpson disappear into the background. If you disagree with me, jump in the comments and let me know. But look, if you want to see a reaction on a particular player and a detailed analysis, jump in the comments and let me know as well. I've actually got some upcoming videos on some European players based on some comments, so look out for them. But also, I do have a community tab, and I put up a whole bunch of voting polls in there about what players, I'm going to be doing reactions potentially on. My Bradley Beal video that I recently put out, as well as the Jordan Poole video that I'm doing right now, they actually came from voting polls. Also, if you want to stay in touch with me, go ahead and check out my Facebook page. It's a great way to see what videos I've got coming up and what projects I'm working on. Yeah, look, do all that great stuff. Like, subscribe. I'm trying to hit 10K subs. I could absolutely do with all the love and support. But But look, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for kicking it with your boy. I hope you walked away and learned something because, you know, I definitely did. But until I see you next time, make sure you're looking after yourself. Take care and be safe. All right. Peace.